everyone, this is ANDIVAX. Today, we're going to talk about the preparation of materials for mixing. This process assumes that you already have a completed project. I use Steinberg Cubase. Others use Logic Audio, Studio One, or Fruity Loops. It doesn't matter. The operations and actions do not depend on the program. Let's open the project. It is very convenient if we break down in advance all the tracks of our project by instrument groups. I use the following breakdown: drums, bass, synth, vocals, effects. Let's start to eliminate the unnecessary parts. Our task is to remove unnecessary tracks and effects to speed up the export process. We remove all plugins from the master bus. We remove all send effects. We remove sidechain, delay, and reverberator from all instruments and audio tracks that we will export. All materials in the multi-track should be dry, i.e. they shouldn't contain any processing that was used during mixing. Pay attention to the fact that if we have a special effect that is used for some sort of special feature of the track, for example, unusual delay, we leave this effect. However, when exporting the track, we create an alternative version and add wet to the end of the file's name, which means with processing. We set the faders for all the channels so that peak volume levels do not exceed -3 to -4 decibels. Now we start exporting the elements of our multi-track. At the very beginning, we are exporting MIDI parts of the project. We'll make sure in advance that the tracks containing MIDI have the correct names. It is preferable that these names coincide with names of the instruments relevant to them in this project. Pay attention that in some programs, muted MIDI will not be exported. Also, the MIDI export process, for example in Fruity Loops, is not as simple as it is, for example, in Cubase, and the project has to be prepared for export by special command macros. Prepare for MIDI export. Don't forget that you should only use this macro if you're exporting your export as MIDI. Do not save the project after applying this macro. Pay attention to the fact that it is possible to write the track's tempo into the folder with the multi-track's name. It is also highly recommended to name all exported files correctly. Now we can start exporting instruments. We'll save the audio with the following parameters: 44,100 kHz, bit depth 24. Please note that the option Channel Batch Export allows to export simultaneously all tracks ticked in the Export Audio Mixdown window. It is essential to check in advance the peak signal level on the mixer's channels. In programs that do not support simultaneous export of multiple channels, it will be necessary to export every audio track manually. When all the materials are exported, it is worth archiving our finished multi-track. The archive must contain multi-track, MIDI tracking, MP3 preview of your track with your mastering, 2 to 3 reference tracks. I use WinRAR Archiver, but non-advanced Apple Mac users may have problems with de-archiving, as OS X by default understands only zip archives. On the other hand, the RAR format compresses files more effectively than zip. I also recommend to set a password on any archive uploaded to the internet to eliminate the possibility of stealing your information. After archive curation, check that it has the correct name and upload it to a file hosting service. I recommend sendspace.com. Note the size of file restriction up to 250 megabytes. WeTransfer.com. Clients of ANDIVAX Mastering, for example, have the possibility to upload files to my FTP server. 2 to 3 reference tracks. I use WinRAR Archiver, but non-advanced Apple Mac users may have problems with de-archiving, as OS X by default understands only zip archives. On the other hand, the RAR format compresses files more effectively than zip. I recommend sendspace.com. This is all I wanted to say about the preparation of materials for mixing in a different studio. I wish you all the best to conquer the world charts. I'll be happy to answer your questions in the group ANDIVAX REVIEWS.